Hi all, in this Central Station Basics video we're going to add locomotives to the Central Station. We'll do it two ways, by a known digital address and by the item number of the locomotive. So we start with starting up our Central Station. It is connected to power and the startup sequence began right at the beginning of this video. This gives you an idea of how long it takes before the Central Station is ready. You can see that the stop bar on the bottom is lit up in red, and that means at this point there's no power going to the track. There are 4 sliding windows on the Central Station. One on the left and one on the right that control locomotives, and then there's going to be one on the top that controls your magnetic items like turnouts, etc. And then there's one on the bottom that has all your locomotives. Because this is a touch screen, you can grab those little handles and move these windows out of the way if you want to. Then you also see that there are 2 stop icons on the top of the screen, and by pushing them you can take the Central Station in and out of the stop mode. To open back up a window, you can either tap on the handlebar or you can simply pull it down and move it around with your finger. Move it up and down with your finger. The one thing that we will initially use on this top bar is the system icon. This is where we can do upgrades to the Central Station. I go ahead and close it now and close the top window because we are going to add a couple of locomotives to the Central Station now. I open up this bottom window, and as long as your finger is on that icon, you can pull it up and down. And I'm going to hit the plus sign, and this gives me the opportunity to add a locomotive by a known digital address. You use this for older locomotives where you know what the address is. You can select DCC or Marklin Motorola. And for now, I'll leave it at Marklin Motorola. And then I set the address in this window by simply either tapping plus or minus till I get to the right item number. And then I can select the functions. Typically for older locomotives, you leave it at 8 because it will not have more than 8 functions. The locomotive name you can change here with the keyboard, the backspace, and you can enter a name for your locomotive. I'll try something interesting here. I'll act like I have a BR120, a German locomotive. So I type that in. BR-120, and then I'll hit check mark on this window, and that should complete it. And the Central Station gets smart and it finds a BR120 picture that it has in its database and automatically adds it to your locomotive. Then the thing that we are going to change is the locomotive symbol. It's an electric locomotive, so now the Central Station keeps it in its organization under electric locomotives. It will also list the functions that you can give it, but for now we're simply going to skip that. Setup gives you some more numbers that you can change on the locomotive, and configuration gets you into the deep bowels of the digital system, and we can click out of it for now. We're not going to use it for now. Then on the top right, you see the check mark with the OK, and I'll click it. And now I have my first locomotive added to the Central Station. I'm going to add a second locomotive, so I click on the plus sign again, and now I'm going to select a locomotive from the database. Only Marklin locomotives are listed, and I can scroll through the whole list, or if I know the item number, I can start typing it in, and the Central Station will find locomotives with a similar item number. In this case, it's item number 3000, the well-known BR89 steam locomotive. A lot of you will have that one. And I click on OK, and it adds the picture. It knows the address 78, and it gives it 8 functions because it knows it will only have up to 8 functions. I fixed the locomotive symbol to Steam Locomotive, and we are done. I click OK, and now you can see that the BR89 is also added in my list of locomotives. Now here comes the cool thing. I can grab a locomotive and simply with my finger drag it to one of the 2 side panels, side windows. And from that point on, I can control the locomotive on that side. So now I can change the speed. And you can also see in the icon that that locomotive has that speed. You see the green bar that indicates the speed. Another easier way to control the speed is to use the red knob on that side. The same on the right hand side. I can adjust the speed for the BR89 by simply rotating the knob. If you want to reverse a locomotive, you can click on the arrows and it will go to 0 speed. Another way to do it is to push the button like we are used to on the mobile station. Now if you look at the icon will have the little red dot on the right hand side, and that icon has the red dot on the left hand side, meaning that those 2 locomotives are controlled by the red knobs on either side. I can, for example, also bring the 120 off to the right side, and it would show both red knobs in the icon, and the moment I change one of the speeds, you see that both of them will respond. Now I'm moving the BR89 to the left-hand side. The icon will show that the BR89 is controlled by the left-hand side. You can also open up the window even more, slide it open more, and that will show you the functions for the locomotive. In this case, it's going to be lights, and depending on the locomotive, it may have more different functions. The BR89 only has lights and the slow speed mode. Once they are activated, they change from white to yellow. And then finally, when I hit stop on the screen, you can see that the speed bars change to red and the stop turns to red. It is much faster and more reliable to just hit the stop bar on the central station. The issue with the small icon on the touchscreen is that if you don't hit it exactly, then you may not get the central station quick enough in the stop mode. If you're running lots of trains, you sometimes got to be quick and put the whole thing in stop to get your layout to a standstill. So you can set the speed of the trains back to 0, and we're going to shut down the central station now. The easiest way is to use the stop button, but there is another way. You can go to System and then find the shutdown button right there. And if you would push it, the central station would start the shutdown mode. But it is much easier to push the stop button and hold it pushed in for about 10 seconds. And then you'll see the shutdown sequence starting. And that's when you can let go of the stop button. And about 20 or 30 seconds later, the central station will be shut down. To power it back up again, you simply push and hold the stop button again until you see the screen light up, and you can let go, and the central station will start its startup sequence and power back on for you. So now you have seen the startup sequence of the central station, how to work the 4 menus, and how to add a locomotive with a known digital address and a locomotive with a known Marklin item number. In the next video, we will add an MFX locomotive. Thanks for watching. For those of you who made it to the end, here's a German BR189 passing through Amsterdam Central Station with railroad tracks.